A man may encounter countless women in his life, each beautiful in her own way, each offering something different, yet only one leaves a mark that lingers long after she's gone. It is not the perfection of her features, nor the cleverness of her words that does this. It is the invisible thread of feeling she weaves through his heart. That moment when he looks at her and feels something awaken within himself that he didn't even know was asleep. That is the emotional imprint, the rare and sacred signature of connection that cannot be copied or replaced. When a woman meets a man from this place, she is not trying to impress or to win. She is not performing to be chosen. She is simply as being, and it is this being that carries power. A man can sense when a woman is aligned with her essence. Her presence feels different. Her energy doesn't ask, it offers. It doesn't demand attention, it draws it effortlessly. He finds himself thinking of her not because she has done something spectacular, but because her presence touched something real in him. She reached beyond his mind and into his memory, and from that point on, she lives there quietly, shaping his perception of what connection feels like. You see, men remember how a woman makes them feel long after they forget what she said. The human heart doesn't archive logic, it archives emotion. When a woman creates an emotional experience that brings a man closer to himself, when she makes him feel safe enough to be real, to be vulnerable, to drop the weight of performance, she becomes unforgettable. She becomes the mirror through which he sees a truer version of himself, and a man will always return to the place where he felt most alive, most understood, and most human. But this cannot be forced. You cannot script authenticity, nor can you rehearse emotional presence. It arises only when a woman is grounded in her own sense of worth. When she no longer feels the need to convince anyone to stay, her energy relaxes. She becomes fully present, and presence is what leaves the deepest mark. A man may meet a woman who is dazzling, yet something about her feels temporary. Then he meets another whose stillness makes him pause, whose gaze feels like it sees through him without judgment, and suddenly his soul takes note. He cannot explain why, but he knows he's been seen. That's what makes her different. The emotional imprint is born in small, almost invisible moments. The laughter shared when guards are down, the silence that doesn't feel awkward, the understanding that needs no explanation. It's the way she listens without trying to fix him, the way she holds her boundaries with grace, the way she moves through the world without needing to control how others perceive her. In her presence, he feels a sense of peace he didn't know he was missing. That peace becomes addictive, not because it soothes his ego, but because it awakens his longing to evolve, to become worthy of that calm. It is not about manipulation nor about strategy. It is about being deeply alive in one's truth. When a woman honors her feelings, when she does not silence her intuition, she carries an energy that vibrates on a different frequency. She does not hide her softness out of fear of being hurt, nor does she weaponize it to gain power. She embodies both compassion and discernment. A man feels that balance, and something ancient inside him responds. It is recognition, not attraction. He begins to associate her with moments of clarity. When the noise of the world fades, it is her voice, her energy, her essence that remains. Even when he tries to move on, he realizes that others might touch him physically, but not emotionally. They may occupy his time, but not his heart, because she has reached beyond attraction and into meaning. The memory of her becomes a quiet echo that calls him back to the depth he felt in her presence. And yet, this power is not in what she does, it is in who she is. She doesn't need to chase or prove, her stillness is magnetic. The more she trusts her own energy, the more that energy becomes her language. It speaks louder than any words. A glance, a tone, a silence. It all carries weight, because it comes from a place of authenticity. She doesn't compete with other women, because her uniqueness is not a performance, it's a vibration. Every man, no matter how logical he may seem, craves that kind of imprint. He may not admit it, he may even resist it, but his soul recognizes it when it arrives. It's the feeling of home disguised as a person. The realization that he can stop pretending, stop proving, stop running. That is what binds him, not the thrill of conquest, but the serenity of recognition. So when you meet him, don't aim to stand out, aim to connect. Don't try to make him feel something specific. Simply allow him to feel something real. When he senses the depth of your authenticity, when he experiences a moment of truth in your presence, you become unforgettable. He may have 1,000 other choices, but none that stir his soul in the same way. Because when a woman leaves an emotional imprint, she doesn't just live in a man's mind. She lingers in his being, long after everything else fades away. There is something profoundly magnetic about a woman who is completely at ease within herself. She does not rush to prove her worth or to earn affection. She does not measure her value by the reactions she receives. She moves through the world as though she belongs in it, not because anyone told her so, but because she knows it deep in her bones. This self-possession, the quiet ownership of one's own being, is what separates the ordinary from the unforgettable. A man can sense it long before she speaks. He feels it in the way she holds silence, the way she looks at him without seeking validation, the way her energy does not bend to his approval or rejection. It is not arrogance, it is calm certainty. When a woman stops trying to win him and starts standing fully in who she is, the entire dynamic shifts. The moment she lets go of the fear of losing him, she becomes someone he cannot easily forget. Because now she represents something rare. A woman who is complete without being attached, who can care deeply yet remain free. Her energy no longer chases, it invites. Her affection is not a negotiation, it is a gift. And men, by nature, are drawn to what they cannot possess easily. They are pulled toward that subtle tension. The paradox of a woman who is open yet untamed, loving yet sovereign. A self-possessed woman does not need to compete with others. She understands that no one can replicate the essence she carries. Her power comes from presence, not persuasion. Even when she loves, she does not abandon herself in the process. She does not dissolve into another person's desires. She holds her center, and in doing so, she becomes a source of stability in an unstable world. A man feels that, and he finds comfort in it, even if he cannot name what draws him. Her composure becomes his grounding force, and in her stillness, he feels safe to be vulnerable. Yet the paradox is that her strength does not come from hardness. It comes from softness that refuses to be corrupted by insecurity. It is the ability to stay gentle without losing boundaries. She can listen without absorbing, care without clinging, love without surrendering her identity. That balance between openness and self-respect creates a tension so captivating that he finds himself wanting to understand her, to explore the mystery that she is, not because she hides herself, but because she does not reveal everything. She allows discovery, and in that allowance, she invites reverence. Many women lose themselves trying to be chosen, believing that self-sacrifice will guarantee love. But true attraction does not grow from need. It grows from wholeness. A woman who knows who she is does not barter her essence for approval. She doesn't seek to be liked by everyone, because she is not afraid of being misunderstood. There is something liberating about that indifference. Something that whispers to a man's deeper nature. He realizes that her happiness does not depend on him. She is not asking him to complete her, but to join her, and that invitation feels like a privilege, not an obligation. When a woman is rooted in self-possession, her presence commands without demand. She does not have to raise her voice or beg for attention, her silence alone carries gravity. The way she occupies space tells him that she will not shrink for anyone. The way she walks away when her boundaries are crossed tells him that her love is not unconditional surrender. She gives freely, but never foolishly. She does not manipulate, and that's precisely what makes her influence profound. Her restraint speaks louder than persuasion ever could. A man, in her presence, feels both challenged and inspired. She awakens in him the desire to rise to match her steadiness. Her composure calls forth his strength, not through demand, but through reflection. He sees in her what he wants to become, anchored, authentic, whole. And when he senses that she could live without him, he paradoxically feels an even stronger pull toward her. Because freedom, when paired with affection, is irresistible. You see, when a woman possesses herself, she becomes ungraspable in the most alluring way. A man can touch her hand, but not her essence. He can spend time with her, but never fully own her spirit. She remains a mystery not because she withholds, but because she is infinite in depth. Her soul is not a place he conquers. It is a place he is invited to explore, if he proves worthy of its stillness. This is what makes her unforgettable. She doesn't exist to fill his voids. She exists as her own complete universe. And when he enters her world, he realizes that being chosen by her is not a right, it's an honor. This kind of woman does not chase love. She attracts it by being herself. And the man who meets her knows, even if he doesn't yet understand it, that he cannot find her essence anywhere else. He can meet 1,000 others, each more eager, more available, more willing, but none who make him feel the way she does. Because her power is not in how much she gives, but in how much she is. A self-possessed woman does not need to convince a man to choose her. Her presence alone makes the choice inevitable. There is a quiet kind of power in restraint, a form of strength that few understand. It is not coldness nor indifference, it is awareness. The awareness that not every emotion needs to be expressed, not every thought must be shared, and not every longing deserves immediate fulfillment. When a woman learns to hold back her energy, not out of fear or pride, but out of wisdom, she transforms the dynamic between herself and a man. She stops trying to fill every silence, stops explaining her worth, and stops proving her love. And in that stillness, something profound begins to happen. He starts to feel the weight of her presence, and even more powerfully, the depth of her absence. Most people misunderstand silence. They think it means disinterest, when in truth, silence often means dignity. It's the pause that gives space for meaning to form. It's the moment in which the other must decide what the connection truly means to them. When a woman withholds her energy, she allows the natural order of attraction to re-establish itself. Instead of chasing, she invites pursuit. Instead of offering constant reassurance, she allows curiosity to do the work. The moment she steps back, he begins to step forward, not because of manipulation, but because she has awakened something instinctive within him, the desire to move toward what he values. You see, a man cannot value what he did not earn. The human mind is wired to attach significance to what requires effort. When everything is given freely, it's taken for granted. When it is earned, it is protected. A woman who understands this does not withdraw as a punishment. She simply understands the natural rhythm of connection. She knows that intimacy must breathe, that affection loses its sweetness when constantly poured without measure. She lets him feel her distance, not as rejection, but as an invitation for him to rise and meet her at a deeper level. There is an elegance in not rushing to close every emotional gap. When she doesn't chase after clarity, doesn't beg for consistency, doesn't collapse into neediness, she creates an energetic tension that becomes magnetic. It's the same energy that exists between inhaling and exhaling, between the ocean's rise and retreat. That pause, so subtle, yet so charged, creates longing. A man begins to feel that he must move closer, not because she asked him to, but because he cannot bear the silence she left behind. Restraint, when it comes from self-awareness, is one of the highest expressions of emotional maturity. It's the realization that giving endlessly doesn't create closeness, it creates imbalance. Love is not proven through constant access, it's deepened through earned presence. When a woman allows herself to step back, she communicates something essential. My energy is precious, and I do not give it to what does not give back. This quiet standard becomes her boundary, and that boundary becomes her power. Men, though they may not articulate it, are deeply affected by a woman who knows when to step away. Her distance forces him to confront himself. to see whether his affection is born from convenience or genuine desire. It makes him question what he truly feels. Does he miss her because she is gone, or because she represented something he doesn't have within himself? That introspection is the beginning of depth, and depth is what separates a fleeting attraction from something lasting. And yet, this act of withholding is not a game. It is not meant to manipulate or to test. It is the natural behavior of a woman who respects her own energy. She does not overextend to prove her worth, because she already knows it. She does not give endlessly because she understands that love thrives on reciprocity. By allowing space, she teaches him to value connection, not as something guaranteed, but as something sacred. There is a beauty in absence when it's grounded in self-respect. The quiet after she stops over-explaining, the calm when she doesn't react to provocation, the strength when she chooses not to beg for what should come freely. These are the moments that shift power, not outwardly, but inwardly. Because in restraint, she discovers that her peace is not dependent on his behavior. She learns that love can be felt without being chased, that care can exist without constant expression. And when she masters that balance, her energy becomes magnetic in its quiet. The more she holds her center, the more a man begins to realize that she is not like the rest. Others might flood him with attention, messages, or availability, but she gives something rarer, space that makes him feel. Her silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back to him the truth of his own emotions. In that mirror he begins to see her value more clearly than ever before. Because now, in her absence, he feels the weight of what her presence once gave him effortlessly. It's human nature to crave what we once took for granted when it's no longer there. The warmth of her laughter, the calm in her tone, the way her presence softened his edges, all of it becomes vivid once he feels the emptiness left behind. That's when he begins to understand that her restraint was not rejection, it was reverence. It was her way of reminding him that love, when true, is not an entitlement but a privilege. When a woman learns to withhold her energy with grace, she no longer loses herself in the pursuit of being chosen. She becomes the one who chooses, with intention, with strength, with self-respect. And once a man senses that kind of power, he will never look at her the same way again. Because he realizes that she is not someone he can possess, she is someone he must earn. There is a moment, quiet and almost imperceptible, when something far deeper than attraction begins to form between two people. It isn't born of physical desire or emotional need, it rises from alignment, a recognition that goes beyond words, beyond reason, as if two energies meet and silently remember each other. When a woman lives in truth, when her inner and outer worlds are in harmony, she emits a kind of stillness that draws him in without effort. She doesn't chase love, she radiates it. And that frequency calls to him, not as a demand but as an awakening. A woman who is spiritually aligned does not seek to be chosen because she already feels chosen by life itself. Her energy isn't hungry, it's whole. She moves from a place of peace, not performance. There is no need to pretend, no need to prove. When she speaks, her words carry weight because they are born from clarity. When she listens, her silence feels sacred, as though space itself is listening through her. And when a man encounters such a woman, he feels something within him shift. She touches not the surface of his being, but the center. He may not understand what it is that sets her apart. Perhaps it's the ease with which she carries herself, the way she can stand in chaos yet remain untouched by it, or the way she looks at him, not to evaluate, but to see. Whatever it is, it feels ancient, as though he has met not just a person, but a mirror of his own potential. Because spiritual alignment has that effect, it awakens the dormant in others. It calls forth what is buried beneath layers of fear, distraction, and ego. In her presence, he begins to remember the parts of himself he had forgotten. This kind of connection cannot be faked. It cannot be constructed from techniques or strategies, because it emerges only when a woman is deeply connected to her own essence. She has met her shadows, she has faced her fears, and she no longer runs from her own depth. Because she has accepted herself, she no longer seeks validation. Because she has forgiven herself, she no longer competes or compares. That peace within her becomes a quiet force. It doesn't need to shine to be seen. It doesn't need to shout to be felt. It simply exists, and it commands attention by existing authentically. Men are drawn to this presence in ways they cannot articulate. They find it difficult to look away, not because she dazzles them, but because she disarms them. Her calm penetrates his restlessness. Her stillness confronts his chaos. It is not that she makes him fall in love. It's that she reminds him of love as it was meant to be, sacred, patient, and unforced. In a world where people constantly seek stimulation, her energy feels like home. The spiritually aligned woman no longer measures connection by frequency of contact or intensity of emotion. She measures it by resonance, by whether the energy between two souls moves them closer to truth. And when it does not, she does not cling or resist. She lets go, not because she doesn't care, but because she honors the rhythm of life. She understands that what belongs will remain, and what leaves was never truly hers. That understanding gives her freedom, and freedom gives her power. Her love does not suffocate, it liberates. Her presence does not consume, it inspires. She gives not from emptiness, but from overflow. And that changes everything, because a man who meets such a woman cannot treat her lightly. He feels, often for the first time, that he is in the presence of something sacred. He becomes aware that this is not just another woman. This is an encounter with meaning. You see, the most profound attraction is not between two bodies, but between two truths that recognize one another. It is the resonance of honesty meeting honesty, vulnerability meeting strength, soul meeting soul. When a woman stands in that energy, she becomes unforgettable, not for what she does, but for what she embodies. She represents a possibility, a glimpse of something eternal. He might try to move on, to distract himself, to meet others who appear easier or simpler, but none of them carry the same energy. Because her alignment has left a trace, a vibration that lives in his memory. He might not recall every conversation or every detail, but he will remember how it felt to stand in her presence. The sense of peace, the clarity, the quiet intensity. He will compare without realizing, and in every comparison, he will find something missing. What's missing is not her image, it's her energy. To live in alignment is to become magnetic without effort. It is to attract what matches your frequency and to release what does not. It is to love deeply but never desperately. To be open yet untouchable by chaos. When a woman reaches that state, she does not need to compete for attention. She becomes the very standard of it. The man who meets her recognizes, even subconsciously, that this connection is different. It is not fleeting, it is fated. It feels less like choice and more like recognition, as though the universe itself has conspired for the two energies to meet. And so, even if he stands surrounded by 1,000 options, even if the world offers him endless distractions, his soul will know the difference. For once a man encounters a woman who is spiritually aligned, whose truth, peace, and authenticity resonate with the deepest part of him, no other presence will ever feel quite like home.